Welcome to the Mixed Media Tapes. I'm your host, Philip J. Mellon. The Mixed Media Tapes is a short artist talk series, and this episode is a continuation of the ahtcast interview with Sarah Boyts Yoder from back in April. The topics of conversation are parallels between dance and painting, as they relate to process and experience. But most of all, this topic is an enriching part of Sarah's life and art practice. Stay tuned.
Okay. This is Sarah Boyts Yoder in Charlottesville, Virginia, and you're listening to the Mixed Media Tapes.
Definitely have a conversation based on what we were talking about, and Instagram and that. So I was curious if you could tell me what came first, like dance or painting for you.
Well, definitely. Well, I think I love dance so much now because I never did it as a kid.
Yeah.
I never took dance classes or anything. It wasn't like a thing my family was into or that I had family members really into.
Yeah.
So I didn't have like all these formative memories, like, as a dancer or anything. But I sort of just came to it a lot later. And actually, some of it's like we were talking about, like the love of music too, and like a happiness that you want to convey. But when I was in college, the school that I went to one of the colleges I went to, because undergrad I did a few of them.
Yeah.
But Goshen College required a study abroad semester, and I was in the Dominican Republic for like 3 or 4 months, and it was amazing. And I learned bachata and merengue there, which are, if you've heard them, you have. If you don't know exactly, I'm sure you've heard it before. You just didn't know that it was called what it is because it's like really popular music.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with it, and everyone dances there. Like, it's just a dance culture. It's just part of the world there, and everyone does, and it's just like the music that's on all the time.
Right.
So that like sparked this thing for me. And when I came back, I kept doing it because I just fell in love. I always had I had known some Latin music before, but not very well. And then of course, when you start dancing, you start listening to it, and I listen to it all the time. So when I came back, I learned salsa, which is harder and more. It's just it's a whole different, it has a different like tree, or a different branch of the tree. But anyway, I love it so much, and I've been doing it for a really long time. And I learned totally like social dancing. Like, I didn't take any lessons ever, and I was just like, I would just go out and would dance. And it's like, social Latin dancing is such a beautiful culture, and it becomes a sort of like real community really fast, because you see the same people every week or twice a week or whatever. And so you get to know each other, and you all like share in this love of, dancing and the music and everything like that. And it's like the widest variety of people that there could be. And, I've seen, and this happens for me too, in a way. But I've seen people who like outwardly are so shy and so reserved, and so like, you can tell they're socially like anxious and like, are uncomfortable. And the moment that they start dancing, it's like a whole world just lit up. Like, they're smooth, they're confident, they're like graceful, it's like a real part of a self that can come out in such a great way. It's like unlocking something. It's so much fun. And anyway, so I do that. I do like social Latin dancing. Like, I mean, since the pandemic, it's had to be on hold for this year. But
Yeah.
other than that, I do it like once, twice a week. And so it's a great group and community of people. And I've been doing it for a long time. And the more I like do it, the more this is why I wanted to come back and talk about it because in my mind, I started to realize a little while ago, but once you start looking, I started seeing all these like parallels to like my art making process and dancing and what it is and how it functions. And like, I think they really like complement and feed each other
Yeah.
in uh, the ways that like that you find expression, or it's kind of like things that I've learned about myself through dancing, like really play out in the studio, and it's like you can really apply them. And I started like I also do these dance fitness classes, and so like for exercise, and that's what I was thinking the day before we talked last time for the interview. I was like in the dance class dancing, and I was like, you know what, this is so true, and this is so true. I'm going to tell him this tomorrow. And then I forgot.
Well, there's a lot to cover, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
made a note of things on my phone. These are the ways that this is the stuff that I've learned from through dance that I like apply in my art practice, or that are true like in the painting process. And especially like most Latin music, but especially salsa, is polyrhythmic. There's multiple rhythms happening all the time,
Yeah.
multiple instruments like drums, flute, brass, like horns, singers, like all these different instruments, and they're all doing a different rhythm.
Yeah.
And it often is like, uh, it makes you feel it when you're starting out, like it's so activated that you feel like you need to do it really fast, like the steps really fast. But in actuality, it's like the steadiest, like 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, it's like a steady 4 count beat that is always there. And I was talking before about like improvising within a structure.
Yeah.
And what I love is that there are like these multiple rhythms going on that you can like slide into with your movement and your body, like at any time.
Right.
So, and it's really like playful in that way. And it gives you all this room to like improvise, because you can always sort of like jump into another rhythm that's like above or below.
Yeah.
Which the biggest thing I've realized is that it's so important to, when you mess up, to not stop.
Yeah.
Like, don't stop and try to reorganize, because it'll kill everything.
Yeah.
So instead, you just keep moving. You keep moving. And I do that in the studio all the time. I think it's why I work on multiple pieces, because you feel those feelings, like we were saying about being in the studio and like tapping into something. And there are times when you do have to stop, like you have to let your paint dry, or
Yeah.
you're going to screw it up or something. And yet you want to stay in that song. And so like, can you switch and like up or down to a different like rhythm section and keep going,
Right. You can kind of like, I imagine you can pick what instrument or sound you want to go with at any given moment, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay, I see, but it's not from personal experience at all, because I've rarely, if ever, danced. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes it really fun and playful. And I just love it. It makes it really welcoming and inviting too, because they're sort of like, there's something for many like moods or states of being or energies, like
yeah,
some things are going faster or more intense, like, certain instruments, but they're playing their own steady rhythm. And then there's like smaller clicky instruments that come in, and they have a different one altogether, and you could dance on that one or that one, you know.
it sounds
And
awesome.
what's that?
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I think the other part of it is that idea of, and we mentioned this last time, of like having to track a lot of things at once. Like your brain has to synthesize or integrate all of this sensory input at once, like
Yeah.
in the moment. And it's about the music and all those things that I was talking about. It's about like you're like on a team with a person. There's like the person who you're dancing with, you're having a conversation, and it's really like intricate because you have to start paying attention to like um how fast, you know, if their hand is held this way, that means you're going to turn in one way. If it's held like this, it means you're going to turn in a different way, and depending on how much tension there is,
Yeah.
it means you're going to turn twice or three times, and you're like listening and feeling
Yeah.
all of that stuff, like the space with your partner and then the space with the people around you and your own balance and then your own sort of like imagination and playfulness. And um, it's so in the moment, and it's like such a good exercise for your brain.
I can
And it's
imagine.
like it's really, it feels so fun and adds another layer of joy to be like creating this new thing
Yeah.
with another person. It's like collaborative, you know, like there's a
Yeah.
call and response element
Is
that's
that like,
fantastic.
yeah, that's cool. Is that somehow like therapeutic in a way? I mean, not, um,
Yeah,
yeah, like, I mean, just the spirit. I imagine being, well, you're a painter and then taking it to a whole new medium and
yeah,
kind of doing similar things, like with, you
right.
mentioned the call and response, which, and
Yeah,
not, but generally painting is a call and response with yourself and your painting. And I guess that could be considered two people,
yeah,
but there's literally like in dance, like the way you just described it, there's physically two people that
yeah.
have to respond to each other, and that's
Mhm.
how much of a like, does the lead dancer, so to speak, like shift from say you to your partner and back and forth?
No,
Or, no?
I mean, some of it depends on what you like, but it is fairly traditional gender-wise.
Yeah.
Most across the board, mostly like most male dancers are leads
Yeah.
and female dancers are follows.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I find that the parts of my nature that I think help me in the studio also help me as a following dancer, like in the system that I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about, because you have to be able to adapt really quickly and like uh, use what you have or what is given to you and like make something of it.
Yeah.
And like improvising is a thing, you know, like it's every person that you dance with is so different and has a different style and like movements and patterns. And it's sort of that idea of like really being able to pay attention and recognize little things and being able to kind of go with the flow
Yeah.
is something that I can do, and it makes that part really fun and interesting. And it's not all just, you know, you do have some control, you know, in the partnership, even though you're not leading. It's still like this really interconnected kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Like, seems it's really organic and
mhm,
um yeah, like I feel like it's one or two or three more steps closer to nature in a way. It's,
mhm,
you know.
mhm.
Yeah, that's cool.
The other thing is that it also reinforces this idea of, like I said in the last interview or the last conversation, that basically like that you have to just be yourself. Like that's all you have. Like really that's uniquely yours, is your sensibilities and the way you do things,
Yeah.
and to have like faith and confidence in those things that present themselves in the studio. Like it's true when it's true like on the dance floor too, because you move a certain way. Like your strengths are different than another person's strengths,
Yeah.
and so you have to really like embrace that about yourself and like lean into it and like figure out what you want to do with it,
Yeah.
you know,
You
because
gotta
that's
walk in
sort of,
it.
we'll say it again.
You gotta walk in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the real like sort of like joy comes from, which leads to real like improvisation, which leads to real like new things, whatever that is, like patterns and images and all that stuff, you
Yeah.
know? And that's it's like it sounds so cliche, but it's like that's what makes you unique is
Yeah.
you have to go with what you have and
Right.
like figure it all the way out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything creative, I guess. And even like you often have a style, even if you don't necessarily are aware of it. And even in mundane things like a conversation, and it may not be the subject of the conversation, but just the way you form words. And of course, I can't help but think of poetry and other art
Mhm.
forms, that way. uh there's always, when it's automatic, that's when it's going.
That's right.
Yeah.
Automatic.
Yeah. So
And it takes so long. It takes a long time to get automation. It takes a long time for that in yourself.
right.
Because you have to like understand and recognize what those things are that are unique in you
Yeah.
and then start doing them,
Yeah.
um, the other thing that I was going to say, and I think Tina Fey said this,
Okay.
but she said no one looks stupid when they're having fun.
That's right.
And I became a much better dancer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when I stopped worrying about doing it right and doing
Yeah.
it perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had so much more fun and things got more smoothed out and
Yeah.
like all of those amazing moments I was just talking about of like collaborating and um, playing and improvising on all these different rhythm planes,
Yeah.
like that happens because I stopped worrying about like looking so cool and or doing it perfectly right and not messing up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, I think about that in my work too.
Right.
Just, being yourself and, just letting it be what it is, not trying to make it something it isn't, embracing it.
Yeah. I was curious, because when you paint, obviously we're using paint. That could be but there's also the image that happens after that. So there seems that there's at least three elements that are going on.
Mhm,
And now that I'm saying this, you did mention how certain dances is you can pick up on different instruments and the vocals or what have you.
mhm.
Um, but I'm wondering if it becomes a little more complex. Do you think, like painting, because there's like, I mean, I'm just reducing it down. Maybe I shouldn't make it so simple, but like there's the canvas or paper, and then there's the paint, and then there's you. And once the image happens, that might even be four.
Yeah.
And so is that at all related to, say, dance with those multi levels that I think maybe uh might be similar, or
Yeah, which I really like. I like thinking about it, um, kind of like doing a dance. I mean, I feel and I've heard people describe writing or like
yeah.
painting as it being a dance because when people say that they mean like it's a dance and it's like about holding things in balance or trying to achieve balance or trying to like have a retain like some kind of tension or like
Yeah.
equilibrium,
Right.
you know, um, which that's all true for both things,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes I say, if you stuck on a painting, just switch your paintbrush.
Yeah.
Like just change the tool because you'll use it differently if it's depending on what kind of brush it is.
Yeah.
Just like if you're in the if it's not working out with this rhythm, like jump up to another one and find where you can
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
into the flow of that one, and then you keep going.
Yeah, it's definitely switching it up because and sometimes, like the other day, I had to walk away from a painting because I was looking at it, and I do a lot of trying to figure it out in my head, even
Yeah.
still. And sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts. But the other day, I just said, it's not happening, like whether on the canvas or in my head or anywhere. So it's okay, like go over there and go to the porch or something.
Yes.
But yeah,
Which is part of which is part of the dance.
yeah, 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 totally.
Like knowing when to, there are times when you do have, I mean, you have to stop sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's true. But that's part of it
right.
because there are times where the stopping is what's going to push it forward.
Yeah.
You know.
Or it could be a pause, or I imagine, or like
Hmm.
if you stop because of a mistake, I think is what you were trying to get at
Yeah.
earlier, or in a conversation, that might not be the best thing to do, because that could be just part of the dance of the rhythm, and then
Hmm.
but the stop could be the finale. Like, so
Right.
it's supposed to be that way, it seems.
And that sounds kind of dramatic, right? It's a
Yeah,
dramatic
yeah, like just
finale.
I'm
Like
just
you're like, fuck, okay, done.
oh, yeah.
Okay, so here's the other thing.
Okay.
So this is what I couldn't remember, and maybe we talked about it on messaging.
Yeah, Instagram.
Um, okay, there's a podcast called Song Exploder,
Yeah.
and it's been going on for a long time, but I'm new to it, like within the last year. And it's hosted by Hrishikesh Hirway, and he interviews musicians about specific songs, and they describe like how the song came about,
Yeah.
like one specific one. And with all of these, and it's really fantastic because it's a lot like Art 21,
Yeah.
Art in the 21st Century that we talked about on PBS, because it's just the artist talking,
Right.
and it's pretty condensed. It's only like they're like maybe 15 minutes each episode,
Yeah.
and it's just such a great insight, like hearing an artist speak firsthand about how they made something. And isn't it funny, like someone asked me, do you think they could do that with paintings? Like, could you have a podcast where you talk to an artist about the process of making one painting? Like, what would it be like?
Oh, wow.
And I don't think it would translate.
You probably would have to take, I imagine, process shots, like, say, you know, after a 30-minute session, take a picture, and then if you work on it for another 2 hours, you take a picture after that stopping point, and maybe
Yeah,
show that sort of duration that
yeah.
way. Or I'm not sure.
So it's just like so interesting
Yeah,
to
yeah,
try
yeah.
to think about it across mediums. Anyway, I was I was trying to remember this one episode when we last had our conversation. And it was from Song Exploder, and it's from the singer named Leanne LaHavas, and she is British. She had an album that just came out in 2020. Anyway, she like talks about the making of one of her songs on her new album,
Yeah.
and one of the things that she said, which I was trying to remember last time, was the song that they're discussing. She says that it was a little disconcerting. First of all, it took a long time because of, as it does when you're creating like a piece of artwork, sometimes it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But she was like, oh, because it was coming out really poppy. Like to her ears, it was like very pop. And she's more of like a jazz um, singer and musician. She plays piano beautifully. And so like pop isn't her sort of like genre. And yet the song was coming out that way. And she said, I had to realize that I created that. It came from me, and therefore it's okay for it to be that way.
Right.
And I loved it because it talks directly to what Wangechi Mutu was saying in the article I referenced last time, which is that she was like, I don't question the things that come to me anymore. I don't ask like, why am I attracted to you? I just grab it and I go with it. And it was sort of about the same kind of like acceptance and and faith in yourself that I think she was talking about, where the point that she came to, Leanne LaHavas, at the end of the song making. And she also said, and this is the big point, was that she felt like the song is really optimistic and light. And she was like, optimism helps it to be easier to express difficult feelings. And that,
Wow.
if you're talking about something hard with like, she's saying all this like melancholy and darker tones, it's just can be too dark. But that she felt like she could say more with this optimism than she could with just being kind of, darker,
Yeah.
which I really like related to, because I think I've come to accept that too about my work, like embracing that it's really playful and it's sort of like hopeful, and it's like, I don't really feel cheesy sort of saying that anymore, you know, that you want to make positive things, and because I think that, um, like I said before, joy or this optimism has a lot of space and capacity in it to, like, express itself while carrying all the other stuff too, like the
Yeah.
parts that aren't as nice and light.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember one of the words that I don't think we really talked about in the last interview was I thought of undertone, I think it was. And that may not be the exact or like most fitting word, but there's definitely layers. There can be layers, like even especially in a pop song. Like if you really listen to some of the lyrics, I can't think of an example at this point, but just yeah, there's some darker stuff under there,
Yeah.
and the instruments might sort of cloud that over a little bit, just like and artfully, and because
Yes.
there is always duality and things
Mhm.
like that, and
Yeah.
so in your painting, maybe the pop is the pink, and then sort of
Yeah.
even today when you use those grays, like that's
Yeah.
definitely a murkier subject matter, but
Mhm.
yet it's disguised like nicely, like in
Yeah.
like especially in songs and whatever else,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
It's like a vehicle for all those things to, like, be around because you need them. She says at the end, she was like, "This song, ironically, the happiest I ever am is when I'm creating, in the studio." And, um, this song, uh is both sort of like one of the happiest moments of my life to make it, but it was about one of the darkest moments of my life. And if you listen to the episode, you'll hear what she's talking about. But I thought that was really amazing. And she said the pleasure that I got from making the song, you know, is worth the pain that, or maybe not worth, but they're on equal ground.
Yeah.
Is worth the pain that I went to, like the pleasure that I had in making it, because that's the happiest I am being in the studio,
Yeah.
sort of is hand in hand with the pain that came before and like brought it out, that impulse to do something
very
like
much
that.
very much a part of her still,
Mhm.
even though in the creative process you might want to ignore that, but
Mhm.
it's only going to enhance the work, and
Right.
yeah, I think so. That's
Which
cool.
reinforces that like art making and the work itself is like such a powerful, like transformative um tool like that we have to use, you know. It's a way to like not give in
Yeah.
all the way,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. I was wondering, I like the repetition of things sometimes, and I was wondering if you could read that Tina Fey quote again,
Oh yeah.
or if you memorized it.
No one looks stupid when they're having fun.
Yay. That's awesome.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, I think that's all.
yeah.
That's all I think I wrote down things that I was trying to remember so I didn't forget it and I got them.
Oh, good. Yeah. This
Yeah.
time, did you make notes last time, or?
I did,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was like I like really forgot this
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. I mean, not well. It's cool that we could do a little addition to the episode.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So,
I like it just sort of is also I think it also reinforces for me that um I said before about Elizabeth Murray saying that she's really likes being alone in the studio and working, but she really needs people
yeah,
and she needs the world. And I think it's for me, like talking about this or being intentional about talking about like the parallels that I see between like my artwork and the world or things I learn from something else in my life that play out in the studio. It's like it is all connected together, and so having a variety of interests or experiences or I don't know, that it's good for the work. The
yeah,
work needs that and it needs the work too.
yeah. and I think it's a challenge sometimes to be sensitive and quiet enough to like see what, and yeah, at the same time, it can be automatic too. Just because you experience something, it's going to naturally come out. But if you're, say too busy or what have you, you may miss something. But I
Mhm.
don't know.
Or too focused.
Yeah, you can't like feverishly do anything, and I tend to get caught in that myself. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna paint, and I'm gonna paint a lot, and I'm gonna, but
Mhm.
it's really on its own tone. It's really,
Yeah.
it can be. I mean, sometimes you can work hard, and then there's a fine line between that and forcing it.
Yeah. And then other times when you do something great and it took like 30 minutes,
Yeah.
which aren't you a little bit annoyed when that happens?
Yeah, well, yeah, it could be. How about this? Like saying that, oh, I almost had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, it happened when my eyes were closed. Like, wait, there's a
Which we
little.
shouldn't do that because that makes it lets us off the hook for the work that you did have to do, the invisible work that you did have to do to let something happen in 30 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
go
No, go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, okay. Well, I just think it gets forgotten. Like, say, if you have people in your life that aren't artists and they can't see it, like because the artist sometimes doesn't see that invisible work that you mentioned, but it's always there.
Yeah, it just looks like screwing around sometimes.
Yeah.